All right, hey, we're here at Tilmor. I'm Lydell Steiner.
I'm Ryan Thiessen.
And Ryan, we got this box of goodies. This is a box of a steerable cultivator that you've produced. And we've already sold a number of them, and we're looking to move a few more out of here. But we wanted to have you give me some insight, because this is the first time I'm unboxing it.
Yep.
Tell me what we're going to do, how we're going to assemble it, so that if somebody on our YouTube channel wants to make one and assemble one themselves, they can do it.
Yes, no problem. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of these boxes out of here that we'll see in a moment, and we'll describe them as we're taking them out. And then we're going to set up the frame, the main frame piece that's down in here on top, and we're going to kind of build it out from there.
Great.
So I'll start pulling some stuff out. So one of the first boxes you might pull out is this guy here, and this is just the seat for the steerable in there. This is how we get it, and we figure why not keep it protected. When you are cutting the seat box open, pay attention to that, no cutting, because the seat is right there underneath.
I was wondering what that all meant, so I'm supposed to cut the other side then.
No, other side has the same thing. Just be really careful when you're cutting with the knife.
Okay, so I should cut it open, just be careful.
This is no knife, but just don't go too deep.
Okay, got it. All right,
All right,
what's
we've
this
got
box?
this next box. So this box contains all the sort of miscellaneous hardware, the tie rods that connect the steering, and the sort of main bolts that'll connect the two main components together. And we'll open that up here in a little bit.
Steering wheel, I read it.
Steering wheel, that one's kind of self-explanatory, so that'll go on pretty well with the last thing. That's a two-person
I think there's a
operation
two-person
there.
job here. What is this thing?
So this is the...
Oh, I got my knife.
Oh, apparently we tie that on now. So cut this off. There's a piece of baler twine on there.
Got it.
And you can save that for later if you need to tie something down. That makes way more sense.
Yep, nice.
So this here is the main seat support and footrest and steering column, all that good stuff. And we'll just set that over here for now. It'll stay from the foot support. Then we have Lydell here.
Yep.
Our 2 gauge wheels.
Okay.
There's a right and a left, and we'll figure out which one is which when we get there. And one more box. This box here just has the items in it. We'll show the people on camera soon, but the track sweeps that go in right there. So, and the last piece, which is the biggest piece, is the main body of this. And you can probably do it from outside.
Okay.
Is it better if we just drag this
Here we go.
over a little bit?
I'm good.
Yep. So you want to grab that end, and I'll grab this end. So you can either do this with 2 people, or a forklift, or loader tractor. There, it'll sit there for a minute because it's on this bracket.
Okay.
And that's the main body, the main component of this. So 2 ways you might think about putting this together. The first would be building it right here on top of the crate. Alternatively, if you have a tractor on site that has a 3-point hitch, proper one, either Cat 1 or Cat 2, you can build it right on there. Either one works.
Okay.
Tractor might be easier if that's an option you got. So the first thing we're going to do is set our track width, and that's the spacing from the center to center on our wheels. And we want that to roughly match what's behind the tractor.
Okay.
So to do that, we're going to take our ratchet right here with there we go, with a 3/4 or 19 millimeter socket. And so there's a pocket in here on both sides. You can sneak the ratchet in. And Lydell, I should have asked you for a shallow socket.
Shallow socket. Is that too shallow?
No, that's a perfect amount of shallowness. There we go. I'm going to put that on so it doesn't fall off. Here you go. All right, now we have the shallow socket. So there's 2 bolts in here that clamp this part here to the main bar. And this part here is both the pocket where the gauge wheels sit and also the pocket where the track sweeps sit.
Makes sense.
So you just reach the ratchet in there,
So, you know, everybody has a little bit of a tractor width, but we're gonna, a lot of times there's, I would say, a kind of a standard tractor width is 60 inches, at least here in North America.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So we'll go with a 60 for today.
Okay.
It should stay sitting because it's
Got it.
resting on this. It might change when we move it. So I also think normally we mark the center of these with some marker here, so it's easier for you to find out.
Ooh, that's a nice cutout there.
Yeah, well that's for the other, well you don't really adjust that, but it
So I'll hold on the center?
Yeah, so we're gonna just slide this over until we get to pretty close to 30.
Okay.
Right there.
Got it.
And then we'll tighten this back up. Now with most of these fasteners we're doing today, Lydell, once you're out in the field and running this thing for a couple hours, I would go ahead and just recheck the tightness on all the fasteners.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna move this one out here, so I want to just set that board underneath. There we go.
That'll work good.
Okay.
You want to do that one?
I want to try this one, see what I do.
But while you do that one, I'm going to just cut open this track sweep box.
All right, so I can get in here pretty easily. That's nice. But yeah, I can see why a wrench, it might be nice to have a socket for that, because it's just a,
Yeah, I don't
be a
think
little hard to
it'd
get a
be
wrench
hard
in
to
there.
reach it with a wrench.
But you have it nice. So there's two in there. Yeah, I was
Yes.
only doing the one. Okay, that was pretty easy. Okay.
So what we,
tape
that'll
measure.
just sit on there eventually, yep. So now what we might do is rather than going to our center mark, we might go from a known position on here to a known position on there. That might be more accurate. So I'm actually hooked on the edge there, and so we would want to go to the matching edge over here. Like that. So you can either kind of eyeball the center or go from an edge to a known edge.
Okay, we good?
We're good there. That's about 60.
All right, should I tighten this down now?
Definitely.
And you said after a couple hours of use, just re-hit these.
Yeah, you know, after a couple hours use, I would just go along with a 3/4 inch socket and just check all the fasteners. You never know what sort of settles in during that first hour of use.
Got it?
All right. So, Lydell, our gut might tell us to add the gauge wheels next, but it's actually important for us to add the track sweep bars first because they sit just above the gauge wheels. So I've already gone and opened up the box. And we're just going to go through here and see what we find. So the first thing is this little T-shaped piece, and that's what actually, it goes like that, and then it fits these 2-inch bars through here like this.
Okay.
And these all are supplied with the steerable. And if you needed a longer bar here for some reason, you could always have ordered that from Tilmor ahead of time.
Okay.
It would fit the Tilmor standard 2-inch mod bars. So in here is just 2 of these and 4 of these 2-inch square bars as well as a bolt pack. And we can, oh look at that, we even supply a little setup table. Let's dump that out.
So I would imagine these go in here.
Yep.
I get that right?
You did.
All right, so.
With these bolts. And all the nuts and all the bolts that come in this bolt pack are the same. So there's not going to be any confusion there for you.
Okay. And then, okay, so I'll hold like that way.
Maybe leave that one upside down there. And for now, we'll just eyeball it in the center and kind of finger tighten it.
Okay. It's easy enough.
Now what we need to do is the front one there gets a single nut from the bottom up, like this. You got okay with that there?
Yep.
And then it's got this kind of T-shaped plate here. And that there is designed to just slip right in here like that. Okay. And gives us another place to push against. And we just slip that bar in And again, I would just hand tighten that in there.
Okay. Let's show the camera a little bit more kind of close up on that when we put that last one,
Okay.
that T-shaped thing.
Why don't we do that first?
Yeah, let's do that first.
So here we have this part here, and it has this cutout right here on the side where you can see sort of matches this piece. Yep. And you can't actually, you could install this backwards so the head of the bolt was in.
Right.
But as long as the head of the bolt is out, you can't install it upside down. It only fits in sort of that one direction, like that.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, that nut down there.
Throw that on. Hand tighten.
Yep. Because likely once you're setting up the cultivator with the tooling later on, then you'll need to adjust where that goes.
Put that back over. Kind of nice to do this with two people. I mean, I guess you could do it with one person, but that's, it's nice to have.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you had a workbench.
Workbench.
It'd be a lot easier to do it with one guy.
A hoist to pull that out or something a little bit.
Yep. But this, as a complete assembly, it is nice to do a two-person job.
Okay.
So the only hardware we should have left now, Lydell, are these two pins.
Got it.
And these two clips.
I bet they go in there.
Boy, you got that figured out. So let's go to this side here first. So when putting these in, we've got two sides here. On one side, Lydell, we got this side with the little bit of the curved here where we put that T-piece right there.
Yep.
And on the other side, it's got these ones with the two on top. We want this curved section facing forward because that matches the curve of the wheel that we'll put on later.
Okay.
And so that just slips up in here. And usually for assembly, I pin it sort of close to as high as it will go. And this here, just so you know, Lydell, these holes are on 1-inch centers.
Okay.
These holes are on 1.5 inch centers, which gives us 1/2-inch adjustment on these.
Sounds like you thought through that, Ryan.
And we'll put our pin through.
That's what I like about your engineering. It always is so practical. Let's go just that high for right now.
Okay. There. So, that's the track sweeps.
Okay. That was fairly painless.
It was. So the next box we'll need to open, why don't we leave that down, because we can put this thing right on top of it. So this is the box that should have everything else in it. We got our hardware pack.
Oh, something else in here.
Yep.
One thing I found with both yours and our packages, sometimes we put stuff in paper. When you're looking through your package, make sure you look for those little pieces.
Yeah, don't throw away heavy paper.
Yeah. Every once in a while it's happened to a customer of ours where it might have been in the box or might have been in the paper somewhere. Just look around.
And we'll just describe quickly. These are the pieces that will connect this here on the bottom to our toolbar.
Okay,
so
got it.
Just so we know. And I do believe that is the end of it, Lydell.
Yep, there's nothing else down there.
So here we have our two tie rods. Now, where did I put the 13? So for this part here, we will need a specifically 13mm wrench or ratchet. And I would just go ahead right now. We don't need this for a minute, but while we're here, and we'll pop these out. We just ship them assembled so that all the parts are there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to thread this one all the way out because it's a bit of a tight fit, but you want it as a tight fit so that it's not sloppy down the road. And I should mention you only need one because on this side, you see here, that nut is captured in a slot.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you put the nut in on this side or the head of the bolt in with the nut on the back side, as long as one of them is captured in the slot.
Now, I see there's two of these, Ryan. Are they identical?
They are the same, yes.
Okay.
There's no right or left here.
Got it. Or top and bottom?
Or top and bottom. Nope.
Okay.
So when you do that, this comes apart into two pieces, the outer and inner sleeve of the tie rod. And we can just...
Take this one apart too?
Yeah, we'll set that aside for now with its hardware. We'll go into this bag. So the first thing we're going to look for in this bag is the same 2 pins that we used for the track sweeps, with the same 2 clips. Because now we're ready to install the actual gauge wheels.
Okay, so that's what we were digging in there for.
That's what we were digging for, and then I got distracted by the tie rods.
Okay, got it.
So I did mention, Lydell, I'll get you to grab that one, and I'll grab this one, that we have a right and a left here. But I would say there's not really an official right and left. But you can see that when they sit this way, they both, the kind of a right and left orientation. So generally speaking, my preference is to have this part to the inside of the cultivator.
Okay.
But if somebody, so that would go on that side.
To the inside of the cultivator?
But you want the...
Oh, turn around like that then.
Yeah, we want this part pointing back.
Got it. Back.
Because that lets it sort of trail.
Yeah.
If you do swap them side to side, and this is on the outside, it's going to work perfectly fine. It's my visual preference to have it to the inside.
Got it.
But let's say that you wanted to keep these in tighter to the row and have more space on the outside. It is perfectly fine to swap one for the other.
Just what I hear you saying is this needs to be angled back.
Back.
Got it.
Yes, like a caster would.
Yeah. These are all the important things that engineers think about that I don't always think about.
So I'm going to just pause here for a second, Lydell. When you have it up on the crate like this, it's not too hard to get that to fit in and slide up.
Right.
If this was on the back of a compact tractor that can't lift this high, what I would do then normally is shorten my top link really short.
Yeah.
So that this is tipped up so you can get more of an angle into there. In this case, we don't have to worry about that today, but it's just a comment I wanted to make about, you know, you've got this on the back of your tractor, you can't lift it any higher and you're struggling with getting that on. Just tip this forward. If that's still not working for you for some reason, there is nothing wrong, especially if you got a couple people with sliding this off to the end, taking this part off and then sliding it on. This way there's a little bit less lifting.
Got it.
So you slip that in there, get it lined up, and then you just push it up as kind of high as you like. Why don't we leave it down so that we don't have to go as far off the crate?
I kind of agree with that.
So there, and this is the exact same, Lydell, as the track sweep. We have holes every inch in here, and these are spaced at 1.5 inches.
Okay, so this needs to be angled back. And well, that's some good welding in there, Ryan.
Yeah, well, we don't want it falling apart.
Like that.
Let's go down. There. And just to come back to that point of angled back, ultimately we want, I'll come over to this side where it's easier to see, we want the center line of this main pivot, and I can't show you the pivot yet, but we want the center line of this to point just ahead of where the wheels sit, so that as you're steering, it self-centers a little bit. So it's not fighting you on the steering. And that's sort of the logic of why we want it pointed back. So if you're looking at it and you see it's pointing ahead by accident, the pivot is pointing behind the tire, that's just another visual indicator of something that we should correct. So now that we've got it.
That's pretty easy so far, Ryan.
Yeah, well, you know what, Lydell, we're actually getting close to being done.
Oh, wow.
This is actually going way quicker than I thought.
Oh, come on, you underestimate.
So the next parts we're going to want to get are these 2 angled brackets we talked about earlier. These 2 square U-bolts. And I think you can see where these are going through.
I do.
Now here we put a lot of bolts in one pack, but we can find the smaller nuts because they're a 3/8 nut.
Yep.
This is one area where unfortunately we've gone with imperial hardware on some parts and metric hardware on others.
Oh, us Americans.
Slowly trying to convert you guys, but
Yes,
we'll
I
get
know.
there.
Okay.
So you're just going to look through, you're going to find the 4 smaller nuts and the 4 smaller washers.
Yep.
And it might be a good time to just verify that you have these 4 plain 12mm nuts that are a little bit bigger, as well as 3 nylock nuts.
I thought you made a
12
mistake.
millimeter
So
that
there
are
is
a little
supposed to
bit
be
bigger.
3.
Yes. And then we have 4 washers.
Okay.
And then another little bolt pack. Oh, this is for the seat. This bolt pack here is for the seat. I've got to remember a little bit about how all this goes together.
All right, we'll
as
put
well.
this back with the seat then. That goes with the seat box.
So, the first step is to take the U-bolts,
Yep.
the 4 smaller nuts and 4 smaller washers,
Got it.
with this, and I'll give you one of those and one of those, over to here. I'm going to cross. You stay on that side. Might be easier to climb into our crate. And this is pretty straightforward. These are going to sit kind of like spaced roughly 2 inches apart. We're not going to tighten them on there yet, and they go right here. So if we're there, probably easier not holding everything. There you go. Okay, so that's not going to fall off now. And actually, I see here that we've actually marked out roughly the 2 inches, so you know approximately how far apart.
Approximately, that's where that second set of markings is roughly where the center of that goes. Got
Yeah,
it.
because we want about a 2-inch space between there, but
Okay.
I just kind of leave it out for now. That's okay there. So, this next part is where we are going to.
Can I kind of tighten these up a little bit, Ryan, just so
Yeah,
they're
you know what? That way we don't have to go as far.
right.
That'll work good. I'm
you
going to
can work
just
on the next
explore
piece.
the next bit of hardware. So while he's tightening that, I just went over here to verify what all this hardware was for. So here we have a 12mm hex bolt that's 30 millimeters long, and it goes with just a single washer, and that's going to be for attaching the steering wheel to the steering shaft over here, and we'll show that when we get that far. The 4 plain 12mm nylock nuts are going to be when we connect the tie rods to the ball joints, and these are going to go on the tie rods. That's for that. This is a 12 by 80 carriage bolt, and it's going to end up going with one of the nylon insert nuts and a washer, and that's going to be the bolt that is connecting the 2 pieces Lydell and I just attached to the bottom of this steering piece here. Finally, what we're left with is these 2 12 by probably 30 millimeter carriage bolts with 2 more nuts and 2 more washers, and those are going to be what connects this part here to the back of that bracket right by your shoulder, Lydell. So once you're ready,
Yep. I am.
what we're going to do is, and this next part, Lydell, we'll be able to do it with the 2 of us.
Okay.
But for people sort of wanting to do it, they may consider having a 3rd person to help, or a tractor or something, just because this thing can be awkward. If we were not in a crate with a board across it, this would be a little bit easier because we could just let the back end rest on the ground while we just do the first one. But we're going to kind of play around with it as we go here.
Got it.
Okay, so
Yeah, well, got it.
we'll just pick it up.
Why don't I do the back side?
Okay.
You do the front.
I'm just going to grab all of the hardware. Why not? I'm going to actually hop in here. board might be helpful. So Lydell right now is just extending the support leg that normally holds the steerable from falling down backwards out, just so it'll rest on the back of the crate as we push this forward. So we're just going to move this forward, and we're going to take that 80mm carriage bolt and slide it through either one of these two brackets. Go away from you, Lydell. There. Just like that. Did you bring a 3/4? Otherwise I got one down there.
Here's the 9/16 to finish tighten up the, and here's
Yes,
the
we'll
3/4.
get that.
Not a ratchet though.
Oh, that's okay. So the first thing I like to do here is actually just snug up the 3/4 one a little bit. That way it's not going anywhere.
Now I notice you're only using one wrench there. So
Well, that's because that's the carriage bolt.
okay. That makes it nice.
Yeah, actually I'm gonna need you back there.
Okay.
So as before we tighten this too much here,
Yeah.
we want to put the bolts in on the top here. And so that is the 12x30 carriage. So if you lift that up. Yep.
We're going inside?
We're going to go inside, yep. And we just need to more forward. You might need to pry up on that just to get everything lined up. But there's that side. There we go. So now, is it, how's our weight?
Yeah.
Our weight's good.
We're
All
good.
right. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up here first. Is that a ratcheting 3/4 on the ground there?
Yep.
It might save me a bit of time. Tried to leave enough room here for wrenches. So here a ratchet wouldn't have worked because there's not enough room in between here.
A socket, yeah, socket ratchet, yeah.
Yes. Ratcheting wrench is great.
Yep. I should mention at some point here, I can maybe do it now, when you get the whole system in the box, a lot of times either Ryan or us, we will ship it with other boxes as well. So if you got a basket weeder, a finger weeder, the crate's going to be full of stuff.
Yes.
So what we showed you today is the pieces that make up this system. It may arrive with more goodies that you need to take out as well. So
Yes,
just keep that in mind.
That's actually a really good point.
So
now we've got this tight. This down here is
that looks
pretty
pretty
close.
Good.
And so once this is close, Lydell, and I've got this sort of snug, then I'll probably go back to these 9/16 or to the U-bolts and just tighten them down. You want to tighten them evenly.
Yeah.
So you want the same amount of thread past the nut on both sides, roughly speaking, so you're not kind of pulling it out of joint.
Nice job so far on the tolerances. Everything is sliding together just fine, looking good, and I like.
And then don't forget to finish tightening this one up here. And you want this fairly snug because these bolts here are what provide some of the lateral stability back here.
Okay.
If you were really loose with these bolts, this would feel like it was swaying.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, Lydell, our easiest thing to do right now, the only things left are to connect the tie rods,
Yep.
install the steering wheel and the seat. But before we make it heavier, it might be easiest for us to actually lift this down onto the ground out of this crate right now.
Okay.
This is where,
I think we should add another person.
there, now we can set that down. And Lydell, if we keep rolling ahead,
Yep.
and just set it there just for the moment. Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yes, thank you. We're probably going to end up a little further forward.
Yeah.
We'll just take care of this, but I'll describe it before we do it. So this part here is the support leg for when we're not using the steerable.
Okay.
Normally, before you had slid that out there, it sits fairly nicely tucked up underneath here, so it's not that far behind the seat. So when you're backing up, you're not, it's not sticking this far behind the seat. We're going to catch it on trees or something on your headland.
Yeah.
In this case, we can use it for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it, Lydell.
Yeah.
Leave this for now,
Pop
and
that
you're just
pin
going to pop that pin out and line it up down there, and then we can worry about if it's long enough or not. But from here, I'll be able to easily lift this and shimmy it another, I don't know, foot forward. It's actually quite light. That's just one hand.
Well, you're just, that strong, Ryan.
There we go.
Okay.
So this is actually we'll set it down. This is a good example. We were talking about tolerances. Sometimes this might not line up. And the reason for that is there's a little bit of play in all these bolts here.
Okay.
And it may be that when we put it together back at the shop, we didn't get this perfectly lined up with how this would work.
Okay.
And so it's as easy as loosening these off so it fits down there.
All right. Give me the wrench a little bit. Let me see if I can tighten. There's a carriage on the other side, so we only need one wrench. So I'm just going to loosen these up just a little bit.
So I wouldn't worry about that one too much.
Not that one, just the top two, you're saying.
Yeah. Canadians tighten those ones.
That's right. There we go. Okay, well, I felt it move a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so there, just get that so it goes in.
Yep.
And then give it a bit of a tighten.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then it should be
good.
It will line up between them. That might just need a touch of tweaking. Yeah, this one is not a carriage bolt, so that's the one difference here.
Yeah, so I only need to loosen the top two, though, and those are carriage bolts.
Looking at it now, it could be. So this has got a real squat to it right now. Oh yeah, let's put that clip back in. So I'm just going to lift this and ask you to put that into a different slot there.
How many can I go?
Maybe go a little further. Go to wherever it ends.
That's, I think, the last one.
Okay, well now it's sitting at an appropriate height.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, that was pretty simple, actually.
So 3 things left to do now, Lydell. We have the tie rods to install. We have the steering wheel and the seat. So we'll start with the tie rods.
Okay. Those look like the more, well, we'll do the tie rods.
Yeah, so yes, for the tie rods, we're going to use these plain 12mm hex nuts we talked about earlier. First thing we're going to do is thread them onto these ball joints all the way.
That's the lock nut in essence,
Yeah, it
right?
just keeps everything from moving later on. And so now we take this part here, and it is threaded on both ends. Realistically, Lydell, it actually doesn't matter which part goes to the inside or outside.
What do you like to do?
I like to do this part to the inside.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go ahead and thread that, leaving maybe a 1/4 inch of space between that and a nut. That's really not actually too particular how much you leave. And then we'll thread this side. There. So now that we
That's, I mean, that's more like a 1/2 inch, but
well, it came undone there. It was a 1/4.
Okay. All right, so a good 1/4.
I only know metric.
You only know okay. That would be hard, wouldn't it be?
So now we have these. So one thing that I'll mention here, and I mentioned earlier, I couldn't show these pivoting. This is going to be the 13mm.
Yep, got it.
And that's because when we ship these, Lydell, we ship these with a bolt here
Oh.
that locks this, as well as a bolt in here on the main steering column that locks this. And the reason for that is, A, we don't want this flopping around in shipping, but more importantly, this bolt sets the steering column to center.
Yep.
This bolt sets both of these
Oh
to
my
center
goodness.
as well.
That is
so
amazing.
that there's no fine adjustment. You don't need a tape measure or anything like that. All we have to do now is just lock these down in the furthest apart holes that we can find.
Okay.
So this hole here looks like we can access that with a nut. There. This one here we can access. Now if we wanted to access that one, you know, this is where this isn't really critical. We could have gone right to the end.
Yep.
I like to just make sure there's about a 1/4 inch. And this is tight, but again, like I mentioned, that's on purpose because we don't want this being loose. This might be where your
Persuasion
encourager
comes in.
looks like you've been encouraging a lot of things with it.
Yeah, get a little, okay.
There.
So one thing, Ryan, just to be clear, I mean, that was such a crucial point you made about this pilot bolt here and the one up here. I might have taken those out beforehand, be like, oh, they're in the way. They're not in the way. You leave them in until you put both of these on.
Correct.
Then we take them out. Okay, that makes sense. I'm the kind of guy that just rushes into something.
Yeah.
And I probably would have they'd been gone like a long time ago. Like,
Right.
yeah, we don't need those.
Well, the beauty is you can put them back later.
You could, technically you could, but. All right, I think I could do the other side. I think I've learned. You already put the lock nut on.
Now, one thing I'm going to say, Lydell, because people that know steering systems a little better than me will think that they can turn this and tweak the length.
You can't, because.
But these are both right-hand threads.
I see that. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and I just thought I'd point it out because we're not dealing in a steerable cultivator with the level of precision of a car or anything like that for how we set up our steering systems. So it was a lot simpler to use 2 right hands rather than a right and a left with the fine adjust. So we're not gonna sweat that. We just need our 3/4 inch wrench. And here's where we just tighten our 2 jam nuts.
Okay.
And that's that side done.
So I'm going to go out the farthest out.
And you might find, Lydell, that they're in different holes because I couldn't reach that hole. And it's just how far you have things threaded. So while you're doing that, I'm going to start taking off just this bolt over here, my little 13 millimeter. So I was over here, I just cracked this loose.
Yep.
There is sometimes once you loosen it, if you're just unthreading it, there's a captured nut in there. Sometimes you got to pull up on the bolt to get it to stay in the hole.
Okay.
And then.
Now, just to confirm, I did not tighten these set nuts. I should do that now, right?
Oh yes, I forgot that part.
No,
I did it on my side.
You did it on your side. Let me just, and I just do it.
Just tighten it good and snug.
It actually works because they're not a left and right. You can work against each other, and
Yeah. There is a bit of the one on the end of the green. If you needed a wrench, you could put it on the green thing here, or run a screwdriver through into the open slots. So there's just this little nut here that'll come out the bottom. If it doesn't come out, if the gap isn't wide enough for it to slip out, then you just got to wait until we take this one out here in order to turn it so it's off the end enough, if that makes sense.
I got them out.
Yeah, so we don't need these. I would keep them in a box, just, for down the road. I need the wrench though. So now we will remove the center bolt, which would be much easier with a ratchet, but we're gonna muscle through with the wrench.
So I'm opening up the steering wheel box, Ryan.
Yep, that's perfect.
That's something I can handle.
You'll just need the
I found that bolt down there.
the
There was
bolt and
one
the
bolt
wash.
left in that whole hardware pack that we were down there. I found it. I was trying to figure out what it was for, and I thought it might go to the steering wheel.
So this here, Lydell, just while we're talking about it,
Yep.
has that same captured nut that will fall out. And now, if we just look really quick, so that will steer now.
Okay. Wow, that's quite the machining. Did you do that, Ryan?
I did, yes.
Whew, take a look at that. That's worth like a close-up. Look at that beautiful work there. All right, so we're gonna slip that steering wheel down in that, I assume,
Yep.
onto
Onto the key.
the key.
It's down.
Actually, it's down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just put the bolt down against.
And then you just tighten that up with a 19 millimeter or 3/4 inch wrench. And steering wheel's done. That's not a good sound. We won't do more of that.
All right, last thing we have here, I think is that.
Yep.
This is the one you told me to be very careful about.
Yes. Yeah, use your dull knife on this one. So, we'll have had this hardware pack that was in the box with all the other hardware earlier. And if you lose any of those are 5/16 bolts. It's just how they are.
Okay.
So, here, get our knife. There. What's nice, if you do the ends here, you can lift that up, right? And then just keep your knife shallow. I mean, if you get the right side, it's a pretty hard fit there. Now, I will point something out about these seats. These seats, like a lot of implement seats, have a universal bolt pattern. But as part of that here, the holes that we need, I think, are the inner ones here. They have this sliding nut feature.
Interesting.
Okay, that you need to get into the right spot. Maybe use a screwdriver and not a knife.
Looks like some of them already are in, so it's just kind of a matter
Well, some of them come quite loose,
Yeah.
and others come quite tight. The problem with what I've just done is as soon as I flip the seat upside down,
they might do it again.
it's going back into the same spot. So this is the one part where it pays to have a wee bit of patience with it.
Okay.
It's not that difficult, nor does it take that long, but it's just with those nuts flopping around, I find it easier just to flip it up into place. Set it on there, and then line it up. So usually I start with one. So you find one, and you get it going. There, now it's not going anywhere.
And there was 4 bolts and 4 washers. I put the washers on there
Yes.
beforehand.
Correct. So now you just keep on lining it up. If it doesn't fit, you may just need to stick something in there that
Okay, mine moved already.
yeah, you want a knife?
Yes, please.
There you go. You got it?
Wasn't bad. But
No,
if I
it just
didn't know any different, that would not.
It just takes a little bit of patience
Yeah.
is all. So one thing I didn't mention earlier, Lydell, that I'll mention now, is we do have some extra holes in here on this gray tube. So we always ship these with this green bracket installed in the last spot. But if you needed to move this forward, you could put this in some of these other spots.
Okay.
Although I think you'd get pretty close to the steering wheel. So I would say, generally speaking, I would leave it here.
Okay.
But that is an option. The last thing that I'll just show quickly about a kind of an adjustment that people will do. And this one requires two 19 millimeter or 3/4 wrenches. So I just want to show this seat support really quick. Or not the seat support, the footrest. So for space, we always ship it in its shortest position. But you can always just loosen that off. And I'm not going to take it right off here. I'm just going to so this can now, maybe it didn't go far enough, but you can adjust this way and that way. You can also use these other slots. If you really needed to, you could slide this forward, which raises the steering wheel, or slide it backwards, which lowers it. There are two holes in this gray bar that we use to sort of gauge where we think
where
most commonly would end up, and that's how we ship it. But I just wanted to show what happens when you slide it forward and backward. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten it here for now.
Okay, one thing I think, Ryan, you know, I know this is an assembly video, but just to remind people, the front hitches up here are designed for either Category 1 or Category 2 tractors.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of using the inner ones for the Category 1 and the outer for the Category 2.
Yep. So it has only a Category 1 top link pin, but you would just use a bushing if you only had a Category 2 top link.
I think you should also point out, Ryan, a little bit of this in here. What do we got for quick adjustments to set up?
Yep, so first thing I'll show is just how the Tilmor quick link system works here.
Yep.
And that's just, you press down on this, lift this one up, and it stays open. And once the implement is in there, you just press that one back down, and then it clips into place so the implement can't find out. Then the other thing, and I don't know if we can see it from there, is this pin in here. So I'm going to pop that out. And as you can see, these arms have an adjustment range here of almost 5 inches, about 120 millimeters of height adjustment. And there are these 11 holes. So there's 2 holes in this back corner that are different. But these 11 holes adjust in about a 10 millimeter increment for height.
Yep.
I think it's 10 or 12. It's in that range.
Yeah.
These closer 2 holes, the top one here allows for 75 millimeters of float in the top range. That's really good for basket weeders.
Yes.
And this bottom one allows for float in the bottom range.
Okay. So most of our tools we're going to put and have them pinned in.
Yes.
Except for like a thing like a basket weeder where you want some float.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that gives you the options for how to do that. And then you're going to set this height based on how much clearance you want for your gauge wheel. And then you're going to set this height based on what implements you put on here and how high you set the gauge wheel. So most commonly we're using things like 14.5-inch S-tines on here. That's what it's sort of designed for. You can use the 18s, but it's designed around the 14.5s. And from there, it's whatever works for your farm.
Well, that's a wrap. We were able to wrap this up with assembling the steerable cultivator from you, Ryan, Thiessen Tillage. It took us about an hour of pulling things out of the box, putting them on the crate, and putting it all together. So again, really liked the ease of it, how things slid together really well. Good engineering, and thanks for another great product, Ryan.
Well, thanks for putting it together with me.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, we're happy to reach out to us. Let us know. See other videos on YouTube if you want to hear more about how the tools can work on this or what other systems that we have. So thanks. Have a great day. So, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, I'll hold it.
Delete that part.